Revenge films.
I used to have one son, but I lost that son in a traffic accident. It happened when he was 18 years old. I was so overwhelmed with sadness that my husband and I were devastated at rock bottom, unable to get around to doing anything. However, there was an even deeper hell waiting for us. Until then, we were estranged from my husband's family, and we had barely interacted with them, but as soon as our son passed away, my mother-in-law started trying to be buddy-buddy with us. My father-in-law had passed away a long time ago, and shortly after we had just lost our son, she came over to our house and said, "You guys, of course you had some insurance on him, right? Don't you think that's rude? We just lost our son that we love more than anything in this world. And first of all, that is none of your business anyway." "Oh, why not? I'm struggling with money. I am your parent, so you need to help me." "Please, go home." It seems that my mother-in-law was after her son's life insurance money. But because my son was still a young student, of course we hadn't put that much money into his insurance. And after setting up his funeral and his grave, there wasn't much of it left at all. After that, when I explained that to my mother-in-law, perhaps she lost interest because we didn't hear from her for a while. But she must have heard from somewhere that every year my husband and I would be receiving $50,000 from the party that caused the accident. And she came back once again. "Hey, you guys are getting money after all. You're getting a lot, aren't you? You need to hand it over to me." "That money is our son's money. We're not even touching 1 cent of it." "Oh my, what a waste. In that case, you need to give it all to me. There's no way that you're not going to use something that big that you got." "None of that is your business, ma'am." "It is my business. I am the mother of my son, and I am the grandmother of my grandson, so I have the right to use that money. Now hurry up and hand it over." "We don't have any intention of using that money, now or even." "But that would be such a waste." "This is something that my husband and I decided together." That's what I said to her. But when she found out that we had the money, she didn't give up on it. And then the terrible harassment from my mother-in-law began. She would come to her house from about 5 o'clock in the morning, and every day she would bang on the door and ring the doorbell incessantly. "Hey, I told you that I'm struggling for money, and I told you to help me, didn't I? Come out, I know you're in there," she would yell. Of course, from the neighbors, "Hey, your mother-in-law is so noisy from early in the morning. We can't sleep at all. You need to do something about it." "I'm very sorry. We are getting complaints, so we told her to please stop, but..." "This is all because you guys won't just hand over the money, isn't it?" she would say, and she refused to stop. We called the police a number of times as well, and she would stop whenever that happened, but not long after she would come right back. The complaints from our neighbors were getting so difficult that I thought I was going to go crazy. On top of that, she started showing up at my office or my husband's workplace demanding money from us. But even then, my husband and I didn't want to give our son's money to a person like that. But then my mother-in-law started spreading horrendous rumors to the people around us, as well as to all of our relatives. And that rumor was that my husband and I were spending our son's insurance money to treat ourselves to luxury. Of course, we immediately corrected everyone that that was a lie. But all the neighbors started to look at us with cold eyes. And when my husband and I were walking near our house, "Oh, look, it's that couple that are apparently just trashing away their son's money."
Wait a minute, did they lay hands on their son because they were after his life insurance? Even though they're his parents? How unbelievable.
We were being spoken about like this without any basis, and we were getting phone calls from our relatives regardless of day or night.
"How shameless can you be that you would use your son's insurance money? You human trash! I bet you guys did that to your son, didn't you?"
"This must be a joke that I have to be a family with people like you. Get out of this town." And we were harassed at all hours. I felt like my soul was being ripped apart, hearing people say that we did it to our own son, even though my husband and I said so many times that we wished that accident happened to one of us instead of him. My husband and I couldn't take it anymore, and we said to his mother, "That's enough already. Please stop." But to no avail. "Like I said, this is all because you guys won't hurry up and hand over the money, isn't it? If you just hand it over, I'll be happy to stop spreading those rumors about you." My husband lost it at his mother's attitude and,
"I never want to see your face again! Don't ever come around here ever again!"
But when he said that, she said, "Well then, hand over $50,000 in one payment." We didn't want to get involved with someone like this anymore, so we said,
"Fine. It'll take us some time to prepare it, so come back to get it another time."
Without putting our hands on our son's money, we saved up, and we were somehow able to barely prepare $50,000. But then, to our disbelief, his mother came to collect the money on the anniversary of her son's death. "Here you go. I've come out of my way to come here for you. Now hurry up and hand over the money." I can't believe this. Of all days that she could have come, she chose this one to come collect it. My blood was boiling inside of me, but I wanted to hurry up and cut off all ties with this mother-in-law. So we handed over the money that we had prepared. Here, there you go. Now that you received it, hurry up and leave us. And don't ever come near our family ever again. I couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth towards my own mother-in-law. Now that I've got the money from you, there's no need for you anymore, anyway. Today's the best day of the entire year, she said. At that moment, I snapped. What did you just say? I said that today's the best day of the entire year. What, do you have some complaint? Of course I do. Today's the anniversary of her son's death, and how dare you say that this is the best day of the year? How can you be so rude? That's none of my business. Your son just happened to have some bad luck. It's not my fault that he was an accident anyway. At that moment, I was so angry that tears flooded my eyes. I had cried from sadness before, but this was the first time in my life that I had tears from anger. I wanted to get revenge on this woman. I felt that from the bottom of my heart, but even if I went to the police, I wouldn't be able to send her to prison. And there was no doubt that she'd probably come out soon anyway. When I thought that, I was so angry I couldn't handle it. It made me want to do something with my own two hands. And it wasn't just me. My husband had tried to say what he could do to his mother, but it seemed that those blood and tears meant nothing to her, and it ended with nothing more that we could do. It was true that we could have moved far away to a place that my mother-in-law couldn't have imagined and gotten away from her. But this was a town that we had been living in since our son was born, and in every corner of the town we had our memories with our son. That's why we didn't want to move away from our home. However, just a few days later, karma came raining down on that mother-in-law. Right after she had received the money from us, she must have been in a great mood. But soon after, she was caught in a traffic accident, and she was unconscious for a week. She regained her consciousness, but she was left with her lower body paralyzed and with a speech impediment. My mother-in-law lost her ability to speak and to walk herself. When my husband and I went to go see her, all she could say was, oh. After harassing us that much for money and saying such awful things about our son, my mother-in-law could no longer speak again in her life. Not only that, but she wasn't able to stand with her own legs, so she was left for the rest of her life in a wheelchair under nursing care. When we saw her like that, we looked down on her next to the hospital bed. To the doctor in charge, we bowed down to him and asked him to look after her, but after that, we never went back to that hospital. After a long time being hospitalized, she was discharged, but it was decided that she would have to enter a center for people with disabilities on government support. We received a call from the hospital the day that she was going to be transferred to the center. My husband said,
There's no way that we're going to go see a person like that.
But in the end, I decided to go and see her. When I arrived at her hospital room, she seemed like she was trying to say something to me, but, That was all she could say. In a response, I smiled and said, Looks like you just happen to have some bad luck. And I left her with those words. But then my mother-in-law opened her eyes wide, and it seemed like she must have recalled her own phrase as she went pale. After that, she was transferred to the center. There, she wouldn't be able to use her own money, and it would probably be impossible for her to get out of the facility anyway. She couldn't even go to the toilet by herself anymore, and she was stuck relying on other people for the rest of her life. She can't go shopping or treat herself to luxury ever again in her life. After saying that many terrible things about my son, I never imagined that that mother-in-law would be in an accident herself. I really thought that it was a terrible twist of fate. However, due to the coincidence of her accident, my husband and I were finally freed of her. It doesn't mean that her son is going to come back, but now I am glad that we can go and pay her son a visit with less weight on our shoulders.
I live with my husband and my 2 kids. My husband owned a construction company and my kids were both in elementary school. I used to work as a beautician, but I quit my job after having my first kid and became a housewife. But since the kids were older now, I started working part-time at a friend's beauty salon. It was only a few times a week, but it was better than nothing. As a beautician, staying in good shape was part of the job. I spent a lot of time every day taking care of my skin and stuff. Life was good. But recently, there was something that was troubling me. You see, my sister-in-law, Jane, she was always coming over to the house unannounced. I didn't mind her coming over, but every time she did, something always went missing. She lived just around the corner, but she always came over for dinner and stuff. Sometimes she even spent the night here. My husband told her to stop doing this many times, but she never listened. Jane was a big spender. She loved designer clothes and stuff. Naturally, she was constantly broke. She tried to borrow money from my husband countless times, but he never said yes. After that, she started coming over to the house unannounced. My guess is she wanted to annoy her brother. and she always stole stuff from our house. We have a pantry below our staircase, and she always took stuff from there whenever she came over. At first, it was just a few things, so I didn't say much. But then she started taking more and more stuff. It soon got out of hand. The other day, she took almost everything we had in the pantry, leaving us with nothing. So I told my husband about it. He knew he had to say something. Then a few days later, when his sister showed up at the house again,
Stop stealing from us! This stops now, or I'm not letting you in the house anymore!
things settled down after that. But then, a few days later, I noticed that my shampoo bottle was almost empty, even though I filled it up just a few days ago. My shampoo was pretty expensive. It was the same kind the hairstylist used. That shampoo itself cost about $50. And the other hair care products were missing too. All in all, everything cost about $200. She probably heard about these brands in fashion magazines or something. And she knew they were expensive, so she started stealing them from me. And she spends the night here. She's welcome to use the shampoo if she wants, but this was totally different. I couldn't believe she'd do this too, but I had no proof that it was really her. I mean, it was pretty obvious it was her, but all the evidence was circumstantial. I didn't have any physical evidence, and I couldn't set up cameras in there, so there wasn't much I could do. But I knew I had to do something. So a few days later, when she came over, I decided to confront her. Hey, I filled up my shampoo bottle just a few days ago, but most of it is gone already. You know something about that? You can use the shampoo if you want, but can you try to use less? I tried to be subtle about it, but then she started yelling at me. Then she started calling me cheap, saying that I was just being stingy. If she was a guy, my husband can go there himself, but he couldn't do that. Then, when she went home the next day, she told her mom that I accused her of stealing. My mother-in-law was very upset about this. She called me in person and told me to stop accusing her daughter. After that, she started stealing from us again. So my husband had enough. He told her she couldn't come to the house anymore, but then, a few days later, she showed up with her mom. What's wrong with you, huh? She's family! You can't just kick her out of the house like this! They showed up while my husband was at work. I didn't know what to do about her anymore, so I said, Look, your daughter, she's been stealing from us for months now. We had no choice. Recently, she's been stealing my expensive shampoo. Hold on. You don't have any proof of this, do you? If you do, show it to me. Come on. I didn't have any proof. I couldn't walk in while she was showering, and I couldn't set up cameras in there either, so I guess I could use a different shampoo, but I really like that brand. It goes really well with my hair, and taking care of my hair was part of my job, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. Why should I change my lifestyle for her? Then Jane started snickering and said to me,
See, you got nothing on me. How dare you accuse me of stealing like that? What's wrong with you? You're a horrible person.
You better not do this again, you got it? Then there was nothing I could say to them. After that, I decided to get a lock for the pantry. Now she won't be able to get in. And for the shampoo, I came up with an idea. Like I said, my shampoo was pretty expensive. My husband or the kids used a different kind. So I took the bottle, emptied it out, and filled it up with hair removal cream. Now we wait. I couldn't wait to see the look on her face. A few days later, she came over to the house to spend the night again. After dinner, she headed straight to the shower room. Before dinner, she realized that the pantry was locked. She looked upset, but there wasn't much she could do about it. Anyways, she came over to the house a few times a week, so this wasn't gonna take long. This is gonna be great! Oh, I couldn't wait. Then finally, it happened. One day, she came running to our house screaming,
Hey, what the hell? I'm losing my hair like crazy! What kind of shampoo are you using? What did you do, huh? Did you slip something into the bottle?
She looked furious, and when she took off her hat, most of her hair was gone. It was hilarious! Then her mother showed up. What the hell? I started losing my hair too! What have you done? Looks like they were both in on this together. Makes sense, I guess. I wasn't expecting her mother to show up like this, but oh well. And her mother. She had short hair to begin with, so she looked like a man. It was funny. I did my best to stay calm and told them, What? I don't understand. Why are you telling me all this? Wait, hold on. Were you two stealing from me all along? Is that it? They had nothing to say to me. I got them now. They're not talking their way out of this one. Look, the thing is, I accidentally filled up the bottle with hair removal cream. I was going to empty it out later, but since I thought I was the only one using it, I didn't tell anyone. I had no idea you two were stealing the shampoo from me, honest. Their faces started turning red.
You framed us!
Then they came charging at me. But then my husband showed up and stopped them. Then he called his father. His father had no idea about any of this. He was furious with them. He assured us that they weren't going to bother us again. And since they admitted that they were stealing from me all along, I made them pay me back every dime. Turned out Jane was having a class reunion coming up, and there was this guy she was trying to get with. That's why she started using my expensive shampoo. But now most of their hair was gone, so it wasn't looking too good for her. And when people at her workplace found out about what happened, she was embarrassed out of her mind. And for her mother, she couldn't even wear a hat to hide her hair. Her husband told her that she couldn't wear one. It was the only way to teach her a lesson. Sucks for her, but it was kind of funny. And so, peace returned to our home. Thank goodness. This is my daughter Jane. I'm an ordinary housewife. This is my husband John. He loved our daughter very much. Jane was a daddy's girl. She was the best daughter ever. But then when she was in 5th grade, something changed. She started acting all weird. I didn't think much of it at first, but something was definitely up. She never talked about school anymore, which wasn't like her. Was she getting bullied? I was starting to get worried. Then one day, I saw one of her notebooks. It was clear that she was getting bullied by her classmates. The pages of her textbooks were ripped out, and it looked like they wrote a bunch of mean things in there. It was all erased, so I couldn't really tell what it said, but there were letters I could make out here and there, and it didn't sound very nice. So that's why her clothes were all dirty these days. She was being picked on. I confronted her right away. She hesitated to tell me at first, but after a little while, she started telling me everything.
Mary and Blair, they're the ones bullying me.
I knew she was being bullied at this point, but still, hearing her say those words herself made me shake in anger. My daughter was the sweetest girl in the world. She was always nice to everyone, and she had lots of friends. But these bullies, I guess they didn't like that. They started telling everyone to ignore her, threatening them with violence. Some of her friends still talked to her, but everyone was scared of them, so nobody could do anything about it. I told my husband about this right away. We decided to have a talk with the principal, but he wasn't very helpful. He told us he'd look into it, but nothing really changed. I tried talking to her again, but she didn't really want to talk about it anymore. Then one day she told me,
I don't want to go to school today.
I called the school and asked them what was going on. They told me they already looked into it. They conduct a survey to see if any of the kids were being bullied, and according to the survey, there was no bullying to begin with. It was just a typical scapegoat for the schools in a situation like this. We couldn't rely on them to do anything. That night, I told my husband about all this, and he was furious that the school wasn't doing anything. I've known him for years, but I've never seen him this angry before. Then he said,
I'm gonna go talk to these kids myself!
He was starting to scare me a little bit. I told him it was a bad idea for him to get directly involved, but...
Look, if they got in a fight or something, I agree. I shouldn't get myself involved. I'd let the kids figure it out themselves. But this isn't the same. They're bullying her. Someone has to step in. Someone has to stand up for her. What if she kills herself over this? I'm not gonna let that happen!
I guess he did have a point. I've only ever heard about these kinds of things in the news, but now it was happening to my own daughter. Someone had to protect her, and the school wasn't going to do anything. They didn't care. She was just a kid. There was too much for her to handle on her own, and he was right. We had to step in and help her before it was too late. I wasn't going to let these bullies hurt my baby anymore. These two girls, they were good friends. They always walked home together. They lived in the neighborhood, so we saw them from time to time. We both knew what they looked like, and a few days later, it was already Friday. My husband took the afternoon off and came home early. Then, as they were walking back from school, he confronted them. We thought about going to their parents first, but seeing how school wasn't going to admit to doing anything, we thought it was a waste of time. They'd probably deny it, and I actually knew their parents. They were just like their kids. Whenever we had a bake sale and stuff, they showed up and never did anything to help out. Talking talking to people like that was a waste of time. About an hour later, my husband came home and said,
Don't worry about a thing. You can go back to school starting tomorrow.
My daughter looked skeptical. She looked over at me not knowing what to do, so I said to her, Listen, dear, let's give it a try. And if something happens, you can come home right away. I'll even wait for you outside the school. What do you say? She paused for a few seconds to think. She nodded her head, saying that she would be willing to give it a try. I was still a bit nervous, though. My husband said everything was going to be fine, but I don't know. I still had my doubts. The next day, I walked my daughter to school and waited outside the gate for a few hours, but she never came out. So I headed home around lunch. Then a few hours later, she came home.
I'm home.
Hey dear, how was school?
It was good. Dad was right. I didn't get bullied.
It was such a relief. After that, my daughter fell asleep. I asked my husband how he convinced the bullies to leave our daughter alone. But when he told me, I was shocked. Apparently, he took them to a secluded place of the park and he threatened them.
I know you two are bullying my daughter. If you bother her again, I'm gonna hurt you and your family. You understand that? If you want to tell on me, fine. I'll still hurt your family. If you think I'm joking, try me. I dare you. Bullies are the worst kind of human beings. If you hurt my daughter again, I'm gonna do everything I can to make your lives miserable. Mark my words. You know what? Don't bother coming to school anymore. You understand me? Answer me! You can cry all you want. Nobody's gonna help you. And you did the same thing to my daughter, so cry all you want. It's not gonna do you any good. My daughter's gonna go back to school tomorrow. If you even look at her the wrong way, you're gonna end up regretting it. Don't make me hurt you.
He scared the living crap out of them, but I guess they learned their lesson. I knew talking to them wasn't going to be easy, and these types of people, you gotta be tough with them. But still, I wasn't sure if this was the right way to handle things. I mean, they were just kids.
Look, I know what you're thinking. I went too far. And I agree. But I had no choice. The school wasn't gonna help, and their parents would never admit that their kids were bullying someone. So I decided to talk to them directly. It was the only way.
I guess he did have a point. It was really extreme, but it was the only way to get the message across. We couldn't let those girls hurt our daughter anymore, and we had to act fast, so I guess it was the right move. And the two girls, they started behaving after that. I guess my husband's words really got to them. My daughter no longer had to worry about them. And not only that, whenever their friends started messing around with our daughter, they came and stopped them. Hey, stop messing with her! Just stay away from her, please! When my husband asked them why they were bullying her in the first place, they just said they were bored. They had too much time in their hands. They just wanted something to kill time, apparently. So my daughter didn't even do anything to them. She just got unlucky. Hearing that made my stomach cringe. I wanted to smack these girls across the face myself. Anyways, after that, my daughter started going to school again. She was back to being herself, and I was really happy for her. That weekend, I went back out to the store and got her new stationaries and notebooks. I wanted to do everything I can to help her get her life back on track. Those bullies never bothered anyone again. My daughter told me that they were now quiet kids in class. I guess my husband scared them good. Sometimes my daughter asked him how he got them to back off, but he never told the truth. The way my husband handled this, maybe it wasn't the right way, but he got the job done before it was too late, and some might not agree with it, but I'm glad he did what he did.
At that time, I was on cloud 9 that I thought I was about to have my first child. And that day was my wife's expected due date. And I had taken leave from my company. I was at the hospital. My wife was right in the middle of her contractions and raising her voice while tolerating the pain, and I did everything I could to cheer her on as I tried to gently support her body. Eventually, the time between the contractions became shorter, and as it was all happening, my mother-in-law also arrived, and she was talking to her daughter. But then, suddenly my wife called out for
Adam!
a name that I had never heard before. For a moment, I didn't know what had happened, but my mother-in-law was standing next to me looking horrified. Amidst all of that, my wife was desperately getting through labor pain, so it seemed she had no idea whose name she had just called out. Shortly after, my wife was taken into the delivery room and she gave birth to the baby. That was the one and only time that she said that name, but I couldn't help but to be left with an uneasy feeling in my chest. That, In such a dire moment, a man's name that I had never heard before came out of my wife's mouth. My wife didn't know anything and she just said to me,
The baby was so cute, wasn't she?
but no matter how hard I tried, that name was stuck in my head, and I wasn't able to genuinely be excited about the baby. It may be awful of me to say this, but in that moment, I found myself suspecting my wife of an affair. 1 week later, my wife was discharged from the hospital and she came back home. I thought about asking my wife about that name, but it seemed that she didn't remember it at all. So, I thought there was no point in asking her, and at the same time, I had a fear of knowing the truth, so I couldn't bring myself to ask. I still remained with an uneasy feeling, but since the baby was born, in order to make room for all the baby goods, we needed to clean up our apartment. I was focused on the cleaning as if I was trying to clean away the uneasiness, but then I found my wife's personal belongings in the drawer, and that was a key ring that didn't have anything strange about it. But when I flipped it over, it froze on the spot. On the back of the key ring was the name Adam written in bold. I grabbed the key ring and I went straight to show it to my wife. What is this key ring?
That belongs to my friend, but maybe they forgot it here.
Interesting. While you were giving birth, you were calling out his name. But do you remember? When I said that, I could tell my wife's face obviously looked terrified. And that face was clearly flustered, and perhaps she thought she couldn't hide it. And she began to spell out the truth. She said that she really had no memory of calling out that name while giving birth, but it turns out that this guy named Adam was actually her ex-boyfriend, and that she was going out with him until right before she started dating me. However, when she started dating me, she told him many times that she wanted to break up, but he wasn't really accepting of it, and that for a short time, we overlapped as her boyfriend. But that ever since we got married, she hasn't seen him once. To be honest, when my wife told me all of this, I felt like I was being kicked to the bottom pit of hell. It may be true that she hasn't seen him once since we got married, but that doesn't change the fact that while we were dating in the first place, she was two-timing. But I know my wife, who was working really hard with the chores and making meals for us even with her big belly. So I couldn't bring myself to just blow her off either. That's why I asked her that if those words were in fact true, then there should be no problem for us to do a DNA test of our child. And my wife nodded. Based on my wife's reaction, I figured that the baby must be my child, but I didn't want this to bother me in the future, so I confirmed with my wife that we would all do the DNA test. As a result, we found out that the baby was in fact my child, and I was relieved from the bottom of my heart. I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about my wife's truth, but it didn't change the fact that she did choose me. And more than anything, I was able to confirm the fact that the baby was my child, so I decided to forgive my wife. When my wife heard those words, she cried tears of happiness. A lot happened, but I thought that finally, my true happiness had arrived. However, one day, suddenly my wife disappeared, leaving the baby and a letter. The letter read that she was going back to her ex-boyfriend, that the baby was mine and therefore it would be hard for them to raise her. So that's why she was going to leave her behind. When I read that, my mind went completely blank. With no trace of my wife anywhere, I went into a panic, and without thinking about anything, I went outside. But of course, I didn't know where my wife had gone, and back home I still had the baby, so I picked up the phone and called my sister. My older sister lived in the neighborhood, and she was living with her husband and their two daughters that were 10 and 8, but when I told her what happened, she came flying over. And then, for the time being, I took the baby with me to my sister's house, and I explained everything that happened to my brother-in-law as well. The baby wasn't even 6 months old yet, and we all decided that it would be impossible for me to raise her by myself given that I had to work, so for a while, we decided to put her in my sister's care. My brother-in-law had his own business, and my sister was essentially a full-time housewife while helping him. So they told me not to worry about the baby, and all I could do was put my head down and thank them. My brother-in-law asked me what I was going to do about my wife, and I told him that I would like to find her and that ex-boyfriend and collect a settlement fee from the both of them, but that I didn't know where they could be, so I didn't know what to do. I also told him that I wanted to hire a detective agency, but that I was also worried about the money when my brother-in-law started making phone calls right in front of me. My sister and I grew up in the suburbs, and we both moved to the city as adults, but this was my brother-in-law's hometown. Because he owned a local business and he also had a lot of friends since his youth. Apparently, he had been asked many times before about finding people's whereabouts. My brother-in-law said to me, "I use one of my connections, so let's wait it out for a little while." He was kind enough to make the call, so I decided to go by his words. However, a few days later, I found out my wife and her ex-boyfriend's location faster than I expected. It turned out that the ex-boyfriend was her manager that was working in the headquarters at my wife's job, and we got both his home address and the company name. Apparently, my wife was currently being seen going in and out of my ex-boyfriend's house. I was shocked at how fast detectives were, and right away I hired a lawyer, and using the information that my brother-in-law's contact had given me, I sent an official notice to that ex-boyfriend's office. And then, because the two of us had not gotten a divorce yet, in order to go through with the divorce, we decided to have a discussion with the lawyer present. We asked for a private room in a restaurant just in case, and I faced my wife, but suddenly her first words to me were,
How dare you send an official notice to Adam's company? Thanks to you, he was fired. What are you going to do about it?
and she started screaming at me with an incredible force. Apparently, the company found out that my wife's ex-boyfriend had an affair with a married woman from the official notice that was sent by the lawyer. It turns out that his girlfriend was also in the company, and that girlfriend happened to be the daughter of a board member, and he was instantly fired. Take that. Before I met with my wife, my lawyer had already predicted my wife's actions, and he told me to try not to get emotional like her and to stay as calm as possible while dealing with her. So that's an obvious outcome. It's a very common thing for an official notice to be sent when someone is having an affair. So that's an obvious outcome. It's a very common thing for an official notice to be sent when someone is having an extramarital affair. Don't tell me that you thought that you would be exempt from that for whatever reason. When I said that, my wife threw a tantrum and she was just screaming profanities at me, even though we were in front of a lawyer. Just as I was instructed by my lawyer, I remained calm, and the lawyer explained the rest of what was about to happen to my wife. He informed her that both she and her ex-boyfriend would both be sued for a settlement fee in the 10,000s. When my wife heard that amount, she immediately changed her tune and said she wanted to start over with me and that she couldn't forget about the child, but of course, there was no way that I was going to forgive her. I told her that the child was my child and that I had no intention of ever letting my soon-to-be ex-wife see her for the rest of her life, and that no matter what, they were going to be paying the settlement fee. Once we explained this all to her, there was no more need to sit there, so I had her sign the divorce papers straight away, and my lawyer and I left in the private room. I could hear my wife yelling that I was a monster and to go to hell, dude. But I could only imagine that the one going to hell was going to be my ex-wife. And then, from the ex-boyfriend who had lost his work and his life, he paid the settlement fee in one payment. For my ex-wife, I had my lawyer make it so that she would have to pay quite the amount every single month for many years from now. By the way, once everything was over, I went to my former in-laws and I told them that I had no intention of letting them see their grandchild ever again. My former in-laws were really looking forward to having a grandchild, so apparently they went straight to my ex-wife, and I could clearly imagine what kind of war zone it must have been. But after being fooled 2 times, and having her also throw the baby away, I couldn't find any sympathy. And after that, until my baby girl got a little bit older, I decided to move in with my sister and her family. My brother-in-law is very kind, and because my sister's children were both girls, they took really good care of my baby. To be honest, even though I was betrayed 2 times by my ex-wife, I truly believe that the saving grace was that the baby really was my child. From now on, I'm going to be a single father, but I plan on treasuring this baby and raising her with everything I can.
My name is Allison. My husband Hayes and I got married half a year ago. His house is in the neighboring city, only about an hour away by car. At the wedding, my in-laws behaved normally, but what I found out after getting married was that my mother-in-law loves her son a little too much. She still treats my husband like a baby. All Souls Day is fast approaching, and it's the first ever holiday that I'm spending with my in-laws since Hayes and I got married. Hayes received a call from his parents and he picked it up. I can hear loud and clear what the other person on the other end is saying. All Souls Day is almost here. When are you planning to come home? I'll be waiting here with your favorite food.
I don't think I can go this year because Allison can't come with me. It seems like she'll be quite busy at work during that time, so I'll just stay here and relax.
No, you should come. You can come even if Allison can't come, right?
Why only me? I don't want to come home alone. Allison and I will go home this Christmas and New Year. It's impossible to come home for All Souls Day this year.
I don't care if it's impossible. You should come home. Wives are expected to come home to their husband's house during national holidays, you know. Allison should follow that. She's being strange. Leave her and you should come home.
I told you that's impossible!
The heated dispute continued for a while. After 30 minutes of heated questioning and answering, Hayes released a huge sigh of relief. But he wears a worried expression on his face. However, a few days later, his mother called again, and another heated questioning and answering began. His mother doesn't budge, and Hayes is tired of the never-ending calls, so he gave in and said that we will go to his parents' house for All Souls Day. I decided to take a day off so I could go with him.
Really? Are you sure it's okay for you to take the day off? Won't it be a very busy day at your workplace?
Don't worry about it, it'll be fine. If we stay at your parents' house for one night, then we can leave the next morning. I'll be able to go to work in the afternoon. I've worked at a convenience store for several years now, and the manager of the store trusts me enough that he now has me in charge most of the time. My husband was worried about my work, but my manager will be at work that day, so there was no problem if I took a leave. Then, the date to visit my in-laws' house came. My mother-in-law was very happy to see her son. The moment we arrived at their house, she said, "I missed you so much, Hayes. Come in, come in." She was so focused on Hayes that it felt like she didn't even see me. My father-in-law, on the other hand, is a very kind person.
I'm sorry you had to come all the way here today because of my wife, even though you're very busy. Please, make yourself at home.
Look, you love this, right? I ordered this special dish especially for you.
Oh, really? Thanks, Mom. But why are there only 3? Allison's joining us today.
Oh, sorry about that. I heard that Allison is busy these days, so I thought that she wouldn't come. Huh? I clearly told her that I was coming, and I even sent her a message earlier saying that we're on our way to their house. I stayed calm, but I was raging inside.
Since there are only 3, I'll give this to you, Allison. You can have it.
What? Why are you giving it to Allison? I went all out and ordered this special eel dish for you.
Because you love this eel dish too, right, Allison? I remember you asking for more at the Japanese restaurant we went to a few months ago.
Yes, but... See? Even Allison says that she doesn't want it. So why don't you eat it, Hayes? How about we half it, Hayes? I can't eat that much anyway. See? She says she doesn't want it. You don't have to give it to her.
Get a hold of yourself! What's with your attitude since we got here? It's your fault for not ordering the right amount, Mom. She's not even complaining about it. But why do you keep on preventing her from eating it? That's right. That's very rude.
I was just... My mother-in-law showed a look of utter disbelief. After my husband and father-in-law aided me, they glared at me. Hayes and I ended up eating the eel dish together. Then, in the afternoon, Hayes and I then visited the grave of his ancestors together. It was my first time going to that part of the neighboring city, so the scenery was fresh to my eyes, and we stopped by different places of interest on our way back to his parents' house. When we arrived back to their house, we had dinner together as a family, and I took a warm bath after that. I was able to survive unscathed. Until that point. Just when I finally felt relieved and started to feel like home, my mother-in-law brought some sweet desserts from the kitchen. She cut that into pieces. I bought Castella cake from the Japanese confectionery store near the train station. You still love this, right? She then placed the plates with Castella cakes in front of her, Hayes, and her husband. She clearly didn't prepare anything for me, and she ignored me completely. This is so delicious. Japanese food is so good. You haven't taken a single bite yet, Hayes. What's the matter?
How can I eat when you haven't served Allison yet? Where's her plate with Castella?
Oh my, you're right. There is no Castella in front of her. I'm sorry, Allison, for only serving Castella enough for the 3 of us. There's more in the kitchen. You can go take some if you want to eat. Only the ends of the cake are left, though.
Get a hold of yourself! Do you think this is funny? Do you enjoy harassing her like this?
My father-in-law defended me, and of course he was enraged by my mother-in-law's behavior. My mother-in-law rejected me, saying that she only prepared for family members. That's when I finally had enough of her rudeness, so I spoke up. Mother-in-law, have you gone senile? Or are you just being plain mean? My mother-in-law was mumbling something under her breath, but she didn't look my way at all. She probably didn't expect that I would speak up and fight back. So I stared at her and continued. If you don't consider me as family, then after a few years from now, if you ever fall down and have difficulty getting up, there's no need for me to care about you, right? There's no way I would have to be your caregiver when you get older and require help, right? When I said that with a smile on my face, my mother-in-law's face grew paler and paler. She probably thought that if she bullied me, I would be disheartened and cry. But what happened is the complete opposite of her prediction. Because I'm the type of person who frankly says what I like and dislike, and say my opinion when I think someone is clearly wrong. The reason why I showed the frank side of me only after about half a year of being married is because I didn't want to create a weird divide between us. But how my mother-in-law treated me that day was just too much. If she doesn't treat me as family,
then I'm not a part of your family anymore either!
Too.
I won't come
Then
back
I
to this
looked at my
house
husband
ever
and told
again!
him, I'm going home now. But if you don't come home with me, I will file for divorce, Hayes, because I didn't agree to marry someone who has a mother complex. I then started packing my things.
Of course. I'll go home with you.
My husband responded and started packing his stuff as well. Wait a second! Hayes, are you angry with me? Are you choosing Allison instead of me?
Angry at you? Of course I am! Anybody would get angry if they were in my shoes!
But Hayes, wait a second!
The two of you should go back to your home now. Leave things up to me from here.
My mother-in-law tried to cling on to Hayes, but my father-in-law stepped in and stopped her. When Hayes and I arrived home, he apologized to me earnestly.
I'm really sorry, Allison. We should have come home earlier. I'm truly sorry from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry you had to go through this.
Oh, well, I feel refreshed though, because I was able to say what I needed to say. Plus, you even believed me and said that you'd come home with me.
But did you really consider a divorce if I didn't come home with you? Well, I guess you're the type of person who would do that.
Of course I would.
You don't have to see my mother's face again. And I think I need some space from her too. And if necessary, we can move to a different house.
Just when Hayes and I were talking about what measures to take, my father-in-law called.
I'm truly sorry about how my wife behaved. Just as what my son said earlier, I think there's nothing I can do if he chooses to cut ties with us.
He uttered those words in a depressed tone. I'm sorry it had to be this way, but I don't plan on cutting ties with you. I just want to be considered a member of the family.
Of course I consider you as family. You really are a good wife. My son is a really lucky man.
Thank you for saying that. By the way, I think you're already aware because of today, but I'm the type of person who frankly says what I think, so from now on, I won't hold things back. Do you mind that?
No, I don't mind at all. I would appreciate it if you were more frank.
When I told him that, he was a bit surprised, but he laughed out of relief. He truly is a good person. After that, my mother-in-law was dumbfounded because of the shock she received when her husband cut ties with her. Rumors say that she shut herself in her room. After 3 months passed since the incident, Hayes and I gave it a shot and visited his parents' house. Then the moment my mother-in-law saw me, she reacted. Ah! No! She reacted like she saw a ghost or a monster. Mother-in-law, I've been trying to behave like the perfect wife, but I decided not to hold my feelings in anymore. So once again, I look forward to seeing more of you in the future. She then turned pale after I said those words. I understand. I won't say anything rude to you anymore. So please, forgive me. She was shaking so hard while asking for my forgiveness. My face at the time probably looked very scary because my mother-in-law never bullied me again. Instead, her body trembles with fear whenever she sees me. And thanks to that, she now asks me for my opinions and judgment.
I was raised by my stepmother. She married my dad when he was young, but then a few years after they got married, my dad passed away due to an illness. After that, it was just me and her, but it was clear she didn't care about me, and she had lots of boyfriends. She was seeing multiple guys at once, and she barely fed me. I was always hungry. And her boyfriends, most of them felt bad for me when they came over to the house. Some of them even fed me.
Here, eat this.
Thanks. If it wasn't for them, I would have probably starved to death. As a child, I didn't really understand why she was with a different guy every weekend. But I didn't really care. I was just happy to see them because those were the only people that fed me. But then as I got older, my stepmom started flirting with guys I was dating. And she actually managed to steal some of them away from me. I was really upset. After that, I didn't tell her about my private life. When I started high school, I moved out of the house and went to a school with a dormitory. I didn't want to be around her anymore. It was nice to be out of the house. I didn't have to see her anymore. A few years later, I got a scholarship and moved on to college. After college, I got my own place and started working. But I still didn't tell my stepmother where I lived, and I didn't call her once. Then a few years later, I met someone at work and we started dating. 2 years later, he proposed to me and I said yes. He was very handsome, and he was an entrepreneur. He was out of my league. I was so happy that he chose me. He asked me to introduce him to my parents, but I told him things were kind of complicated. I didn't even invite her to the wedding. We already lived together. I moved in with him about a year ago before he proposed to me. But since the place was getting a bit small for us, we decided to get a new place. He was the best husband ever. He helped me with housework all the time, and he cooked for me on the weekends. He was a pretty good cook. But then one day, something terrible happened. It was the weekend, and I was home with my husband. Then a doorbell rang. I checked the door monitor, and it was my stepmom. What is she doing here? I was sick and tired of her, so I didn't tell her my new address. I didn't know what to do. Then my husband asked me who it was. I didn't know what to tell him, but I didn't want to lie to him, so I told him it was my stepmom.
Oh, that's great! Let her in!
Then he opened the door. I tried to stop him, but it was too late. Then she came running into me, hugged me, saying that she missed me.
Hello, I'm Roger. I'm her husband. It's so good to see you.
She was amazed to see how handsome he was. He's gorgeous! Why didn't you tell me anything?
Come on in.
Oh, Roger, you're so kind. And this place is amazing. They started talking. I went to the kitchen to make some tea. I had a bad feeling about this. She didn't come here just to see me, that's for sure. She was here for some reason, but what? Then, when I brought the tea to the table, she started crying. I got nowhere to go. I don't know what to do.
What's the matter? Is everything okay?
This guy, he tricked me and stole all my money. I got no money left. I can't even pay rent anymore. Then I got kicked out of my apartment.
How awful. I'm so sorry to hear that.
I didn't know what to do, so that's why I came here. I had nowhere else to go. She's the only family I got, so... Family? Seriously? She did nothing for me. She's so full of crap, but my husband seemed to believe her. So hey, will you come live with me?
That's a great idea. Wait, I got a better idea. Why don't you just move in with us? You can stay here for as long as you like.
Really? Hold on. No. We're newlyweds. She can't live here. I'll get you an apartment, but you're not staying here. What? Why? You don't like me or something?
Yeah, come on. Don't be like that. This is your mother we're talking about.
My husband was on her side. I tried telling him that this was a bad idea, but he didn't listen. I tried to stop it, but there was nothing I could do. I had a bad feeling about this. Then, my stepmom started flirting with him right away. Just as I thought. She was an old woman now, but she didn't seem to care. It was hard to watch. I tried talking to my husband about it. I want her out of here.
But she's your mom.
She's my stepmom. She's not my real mom. I tried explaining things to him, but he always cited her for some reason. I was starting to lose him. Then 3 months later, my stepmom got pregnant. What the? No way! Who's the father? Did she get a new boyfriend or something? It was impossible, but I didn't even know anymore. But then, a few days later, I made a shocking discovery. I couldn't believe my eyes. I woke up in the middle of the night, but my husband was gone. I started looking around the house for him. But then as I walked down the hallway, I heard my mom's voice coming from her own room. Slowly, I opened the door, and she was with my husband. They were going at it like wild animals. Then my husband saw me standing there at the front door. He stopped immediately, apologized, and looked away. But my stepmom, she looked over at me and said, "I guess he likes me more." She started laughing at me. I didn't want to be around them for another second, so I got my stuff and ran out of the house. So the baby was my husband's. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do anymore. I felt like throwing up. I didn't feel like doing anything after that. When my husband told me that he wanted a divorce, I signed the papers without thinking. He paid me for damages, but I didn't even care. I just wanted to get away from them. I still couldn't believe my husband slept with my stepmom. It was disgusting. Then 5 years later, my ex-husband texted me.
How have you been?
What do you want? I got nothing to say to you.
Wait, hold on. Listen. My wife, she was in an accident.
Okay, so what?
What do you mean? She's your mom. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I can't take care of her on my own. And our kid is still young. We need your help. Please. Come on. We're family.
Ugh, you've got to be kidding me. Hell no. I'm not your family, and she's nothing to me. I cut ties with her a long time ago. This is your problem, not mine.
Fine. How about this then? Let's get married. I'll take you back. I bet you miss me.
Are you joking me? No way. I'm already married and I got 2 kids. I don't know what I saw in you in the first place. I did the right thing leaving you. Anyways, if you can't take care of her, just put her in a home or something.
But the thing is, she stole money from our company and we kinda went out of business. I got no money left.
Sucks for you, but this isn't my problem. You did this to yourself. Have fun being miserable.
No, wait, please!
I hung up the phone before he could say anything. 5 years ago, he betrayed me. I thought my life was over, but I didn't expect things to turn around like this. Things were looking pretty bad for them, but I couldn't care less. Those people didn't mean anything to me anymore. I heard from my friend that my ex-husband's kid started living with her grandparents. I'm sure she's better off. She's a victim in all this too, so I hope things work out for her. I heard they were miserable now. They lost everything. And that kinda made me feel good. After what they did to me, they deserve it if you ask me. Have fun being miserable.
My name is Chelsea. I live together with my husband Matthew. My parents own a restaurant and I help them run it. I have an older sister, Midge, who is a chef. She's 2 years older than me, and she went overseas to learn how to cook authentic French cuisine. She came back home a few days ago. My older sister is supposed to take over the restaurant, so I dreamed of being independent someday. While I worked at my parents' restaurant, my husband spoke ill of me, saying that I'm a lazy housewife who only helps with my parents in their business. He told me to work full-time at a proper company, so I was having a hard time with how my husband was treating me. Then, out of the blue one day, my husband drove a luxury car home. Matthew, what's with the car?
What's with the car? I bought it, of course.
What? You bought it without even discussing it with me?
Why do I have to discuss buying a car with you when you're just a housewife? I need to pay the loan for this car, so you should start looking for a job now.
Ever since my husband bought a luxury car, he was more insistent on telling me to work full-time. Then one day, my husband said that he's gonna go on a business trip, so he won't be coming home. That's why I decided to help out at the restaurant from midnight until dawn preparing for the next day's menu. My father always does the preparation, but it was something that even I could do, so I decided to do it alone. About an hour passed since I started the preparation, which was around 2 a.m., when something caught my eye. I saw a flash of light outside. Curious about the origin of light, I walked out the door and looked outside. That is when I saw a car in the parking lot of the restaurant. Unauthorized parking is not allowed, and there's even a sign up out there. So I walked closer to the car to caution the driver, but the closer I got, the more familiar the car looked. That's right, it was my husband's car. I was surprised and confused, so I slowly walked towards his car. That's when I heard strange noises of a man and a woman coming from there. Hearing that, I became furious. I flipped out at my husband for having an affair and for lying to me about going on a business trip. I couldn't think straight, so I went back to the restaurant kitchen. I then grabbed a frying pan and slowly walked again towards the car so I wouldn't get noticed. And then, I slammed the frying pan into the car with all the might that I could muster. Hearing the loud clang from his car, My husband hurriedly came out. Since he was in a hurry, his clothes were loose and he was disoriented. What's even worse is that he wasn't wearing any pants. Seeing the huge dent in his luxury brand car, my husband went mad. He looked at me and raged with fury.
Hey! What do you think you're doing in my car? This luxury brand car is brand new! I just bought it the other day!
That's my line. What do you think you're doing here? At least wear your pants. It's disgusting. My husband then went back to his car and put on his pants. Filled with rage, he angrily said that he will charge me for the repair of his car. So I told him that he should pay me an alimony first for his affair. I couldn't contain my anger, so I shook free from my husband. I wanted to see the face of who he was doing it with. I looked into his car to check. To my ugly surprise, it was my older sister, Midge. What? You've got to be kidding me. Midge and Matthew? Since when? Chelsea, it's not what you think it is. What do you think I think it is? Do you seriously think that you can make an excuse for this situation? I'm truly sorry about this. I'll pay for the damage of the car, so please don't tell Mom and Dad about this. My older sister said that and asked for my forgiveness. Unbelievable. This is not something that I can easily forgive. I promise I won't see Matthew ever again, so please. There's no way I'm going to believe you, even if you promise. I'm your only sister, right? I'm asking for your forgiveness this much, so please forgive me. Try imagining how Mom and Dad would react if they knew this. They would be so shocked, and it's not good for their health. That's my line to say. Why are you the one saying that? I couldn't forgive both my husband and my older sister, but I didn't want to burden my parents with this. So after taking all the considerations, I decided not to tell our parents about it. After that, I arrived home and contemplated on whether to get a divorce or not. Then my husband said something very shocking that I thought I would collapse.
You can't live without me because you have no financial means! So you can't divorce me, right?
What?
You've been very lazy and you didn't work at all, so at least forgive me once for this affair!
That's something that I should decide on, so you just shut up.
You shouldn't be talking to me like that! Because you can't get a divorce anyway!
Instead of reflecting on his actions and feeling remorse for what he's done, he started acting even more like a jerk. I've had enough of my husband's bad behavior, so I decided to tell him that I was going to my parents' house, but I started preparing for our divorce instead. My husband thinks that I only help at the restaurant waiting tables and washing dishes, but what he didn't know was that I was being paid as well. So when I was about to leave, he said,
You're just threatening me, aren't you?
He didn't stop me from leaving at all. I talked to my parents about what my husband did and I asked them for advice and support. As a result, I hired a lawyer and decided to demand alimony from my husband. I did tell my parents about the affair, but I haven't really told them about who my husband had an affair with. They would faint if they found out that it was their other daughter. Then, a few days later, I went back to the restaurant kitchen because I had forgotten something. To my surprise, the lights were on when no one was supposed to be inside. My parents were in the house, so I thought that something wasn't right. So I decided to get in from the back door. I carefully tiptoed to the back door, trying my best not to make a sound. But then, the closer I got to the door, I heard my sister's voice.
She can't divorce me because she needs me. She just went back to your parents' home to threaten me.
Make sure that you keep her from telling my parents about this, okay? Because if my parents find out about this, they would never allow me to succeed in this restaurant.
Enough talk about your sister, and hurry up and take off your clothes.
Matthew, don't rush me. Hearing their conversation, I immediately contacted my parents without hesitation.
I asked them to come directly to the restaurant, and we opened the back door together. That's when we saw my sister and husband naked together. Seeing that, my parents were furious.
What do you think you're doing in my precious restaurant? I can't believe that you would do such a thing in the kitchen!
Mitch? Matthew? What in the world are the two of you doing? Explain yourselves. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I can explain. My older sister apologized to our parents in tears, but of course they didn't forgive her. Our parents sat my sister and husband down and demanded that they explain what led them to do such a scandalous act. That's when my older sister confessed how my husband asked for her number the day she came to visit us at our house. Ever since then, they've been seeing each other. My husband then made excuses saying that he didn't intend to have an affair just for the heck of it. He also declared that he didn't want to get a divorce. However, my parents didn't accept his argument and assured him that divorce was inescapable. My mother was very shocked when she found out that the woman was my older sister. Our mother was extremely disappointed in my sister. She was crying but also furious. Seeing our mother in such pain, my older sister apologized again and again. Mom, I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your younger sister. Chelsea is the one who's hurt most, you know. You're the worst older sister for taking away your younger sister's husband. Chelsea, I'm sorry. You promised that you won't see him again. You broke your promise. I don't think of you as family anymore. Don't you ever show me that face anymore. Get out of here. Please don't say that, because I promise I won't see him again. You expect me to believe that? There's no way I can trust you again anymore. My parents, who were standing next to us while my sister and I yell at each other, disowned my sister right then and there. Our parents cut ties with her and they told her not to come back home anymore. The moment she was disowned by our parents, my older sister fell on her knees and collapsed to the floor. My parents then kicked her out of the restaurant. Completely exhausted, my sister left the restaurant without saying a word. My husband stated that he doesn't want a divorce, so when I arrived home, I told him that I was actually working full-time at my parents' restaurant. That's when he started worrying.
What? You're a housewife, right? I was aware that you were helping out a bit at your parents' restaurant, but I didn't know that you were paying to do that!
I helped out at my parents' restaurant and received salary from them, with hopes that I'll be independent someday. Just your salary alone doesn't cover our rent and living expenses. I'm ready to get divorced anytime, so will you please hurry up and sign the divorce papers?
I didn't know that! You never told me that! Are you seriously going to divorce me?
Of course I will, because I don't need a husband who sleeps with my sister! I will have to demand alimony from you too.
Wait a second! There's no way I can afford to pay alimony! I still have to pay for the car loan!
I don't care about your car loan. You didn't even discuss it with me before buying that stupid car. I'm going back to my parents' house now, so hurry up and sign the papers and send it.
I said wait! Let's talk it out!
There's nothing for us to talk about anymore. Goodbye.
Chelsea!
After that, Matthew kept on calling me to apologize, but of course I ignored him. Then I demanded alimony from both Matthew and Midge. After I demanded alimony from my sister, she parted with most of her assets and she ended up resenting Matthew for ruining her life and her future. Even after they broke up, she still had a lot of built-up resentment towards Matthew. So she decided to attack Matthew's luxury car. While Matthew was sleeping, she crept into his garage and destroyed his car. Midge was then arrested by the cops for breaking and entering private property and for the destruction of property. My parents and I never got involved with Midge ever again. As for Matthew, he lost his beloved car, and he couldn't afford to pay for the house loan, so he ended up living alone in a shabby and dingy apartment. It seems like after the divorce, Matthew was left with the car loan of his scrap car and a mountain of debt to pay for alimony. As for me, I now live in a condominium while I continue to work at my parents' restaurant. I now live independently. I ended up succeeding in my parents' restaurant, and I now manage the restaurant together with my parents. It's a blessing for me to be able to work with the food that I love. Since I feel grateful to my parents for accepting me, I want to give my all to the restaurant.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.